Riding past a mine, Meave noticed a group of miners gathered around the entrance to a shaft. Frost had settled on their moustaches and beards, suggesting they had been there for some time. The Queen summoned Gabor and asked him to determine the reason for this sit-in. He returned after a few minutes and announced the most curious thing.
They're waiting for the knocking to stop.
Meave's frown prompted Gabor to explain in greater detail.
According to our laws, dwarves can't go into a mine if there's knocking coming from inside. We're obliged to wait for the ruckus to quieten down.
Ah, yes. Our own miners share this superstition.
Reynard interjected.
They say the knocking is that of a treasurer gnome, a kind of mine ghost.
With all due respect, your miners are dimwits,
Gabor said, patting Reynard on the shoulder.
Knocking means an imminent and abrupt discharge of the potential pliable energy of rock formations. In other words, ye ken, a rock burst. Except usually it's all done in a day or two, whereas these lads have been waiting going on 2 weeks. Foreman's grown impatient. He'd like to send someone down the shaft, have them see what's at issue, but, well, the code forbids us from doing anything of the sort.
Entering a shaft that could crumble at any moment is simply not the best idea,
said Meave, before ordering her force to resume its march. The dwarven miners remained motionless, like statues, listening to the knocking that arose from the depths. While Meave was absent, nothing had changed. The dwarves remained at the entrance to the mine, waiting for the knocking underground to fall silent.
If in this manner I can gain favour among your brethren,
sighed the Queen, dismounting.
So be it. I shall descend and see what the problem is.
The shaft was too narrow to fit an entire army, so Meave and a small unit of men entered the mine, miners' lamps in hand and hearts in their mouths. The rhythmic knocking coming from the bowels of the mountains, distorted and multiplied, was unnerving. Soon the company arrived at the place that seemed the source of the knocking. Gabor put his ear to the rock and listened for several moments in silence, then struck the wall with all his might. The wall crumbled with a crash, opening a passage into another corridor, from which sprang numerous foes.
Did you hear something? What was that?
My gnome senses are telling me those definitely aren't ghosts.
Who goes there? Drop your weapons!
Nay, you drop yours!
Who just grabbed me?
Oh, apologies, Maeve. I thought you were Reynard.
Reynard! Are we winning? I can't see a bloody thing!
Stop! Stop, we surrender!
Both sides were surprised. Both fought in the weak light of torches, nearly down on hands and knees. In the end, the Queen emerged victorious, and as soon as she had returned her sword to its sheath, she asked the new prisoners a question that was on everyone's mind.
Who the devils are you?
The captives looked at each other in disbelief, as if before them stood a ghost. Finally, one of them managed to choke out a response.
Your Highness, we're your subjects.
Meave recognized the accent at once. The men came from Rivia. But what were they doing so far from home? According to the prisoner's account, after the Nilfgaardians' invasion of their kingdom, terrible poverty gripped the land. Seeking bread, some desperate inhabitants had gone to the mountains of Mahakam, engaging in wildcat mining in search of precious ores. Without asking the dwarves what they thought of this.
You know yourself, my queen,
explained one captured Riv.
They guard their treasure real jealous-like, don't care a whit about the suffering of others. They see us starving down in valley and don't lift a stubby finger.
Sadly, the Rivians had dug close to existing corridors. When Gabor destroyed the wall that stood between them and the dwarves, they were convinced they were being attacked by monsters, so they raised arms in self-defense.
Maeve! 'Tis a tough nut to ken,
said Gabor.
But let's nae kid ourselves. These men are thieves, and we must hand them over to the Mahakam guard.
So they may do what? Sentence them to hard labour, or hang them at once?
Said Reynard, his usual calm shaken and his voice raised.
These are your subjects, Queen. They coveted their neighbours' goods, true, but only because they had knelt themselves.
The foreman wished for the knocking to stop,
said the Queen.
and so it shall. As for you, go back to Rivia, and tell all their queen shall soon return, leading an army.
The grateful Rivs quickly packed up their tools and left the mountains. Meve had no doubt Bruverhoog would soon learn of the affair and would certainly not approve of her decision. Yet she preferred to face the Elder's wrath than send her subjects to a dwarven prison, or possibly to their death.
If dwarves left the mountains to rob the fields of Rivia,
said the Queen after some consideration,
I'd want to judge them according to our laws. Like it or not, Bruverhoog has the same right.
But, milady, you're us queen. You swore to protect us.
From harm, yes, but not from due punishment.
With a heavy heart, Meve handed the Rivs over to the Mahakam guard. What happened to them I cannot say for certain, but they were not seen again.
Four Dwarfs Codex states it clear. If you're in a mine and something knocks, you'd do best not to knock back. Ever. I'd get up. I would, Your Majesty, but my arse is frozen to the ground. Well, boys, a wee swig and we get back to work.